Hi, I'm Art Kaplan. I'm at the Division of Medical Ethics at NYU Grossman School of Medicine. Can you use a robot, an algorithm to treat and prevent suicide? What role should these new intelligent programs and algorithms like ChatGPT, which has emerged as something that people are using to write articles and for many other purposes online, what role should it play in mental health? Well, this issue came up in a very important way very recently when one of the social media platforms called Discord, which has subgroups with common interests, some of whom are there because they have problems with mental illness or they feel suicidal, offered to work with a platform called Coco, which was experimenting with a artificial intelligence chatbot that could interact with people online and in a way provide them support or counseling or help for their suicide ideation, or if you will, for their mental illness problems. I think this is not yet ready for prime time, and I think there are some really serious ethical issues that we have to pay attention to before we assign, if you will, robots using artificial intelligence to become our mental health care providers, or for that matter, to be our primary care providers. So the platform basically said they were going to take people, and there might be research involved, but they weren't very clear about it, and dump them into a group where they interacted with a kind of suicide hotline experimental program, and another group who was basically given the sort of standard human response, as I understand it. In any event, it's clearly an attempt to refine the program and do research. And I think right away there's trouble because the level of consent for someone with a mental illness or who has suicide ideation has to be extremely high. You don't want them given over to a program that they don't understand isn't a human being at the other end. They always have to understand who's giving them care. And worse, the programs haven't been certified or signed off on by specialty groups, psychologists, psychiatrists, social workers, mental health providers. Nobody's vetted these programs as being adequate to care for someone who's vulnerable. So yes, it may be important to experiment to refine artificial intelligence so that it could reasonably respond to a person with a mental illness problem, suicide, depression, or whatever it might be. But you have to exercise extraordinary care in recruiting such people to research intended to, if you will, refine and perfect the programs. And I don't think that happened in this case. So on the research side, I have a lot of ethical heartburn with asking people in with vague consent to try and perfect a program when they're vulnerable, when they're at risk. Moreover, let's say they have a program that some company is going to deploy and say it's cheaper to use artificial intelligence to handle a mental health inquiry, to provide support, and maybe it can do a pretty good job. I'm not saying that a robot using an artificial algorithm will never be involved in the provision of healthcare. But you have to be sure that it's the fact that it's a robot, if you will, or an artificial intelligence is disclosed to anybody who's going to use it. You have to make sure that it's been protected with proper privacy and confidentiality security so that no one can hack their way into it. You have to make sure that no one's reselling any information about these people to pharmaceutical companies or anybody else. And as I said, you have to make sure that it's been vetted, not just by the company that makes it or the people who have conflicts of interest in trying to push these programs forward, but by professional societies with their expertise to say, yes, that looks like it's offering reasonable responses, reasonable advice, reasonable support. Is there a future for artificial intelligence in medicine as providers of care? Yes, I suspect there is. Like it or not, we're probably going to see some forms of artificial intelligence start to interact with patients and at least initially guide their care. But we're not ready yet. We haven't vetted these programs, if you will, adequately. We're not really sure about liability and malpractice if they don't do what they're supposed to do. And we haven't set out clear standards for disclosure and consent. Until we get the ethical infrastructure for robot medicine, I don't think we're ready for prime time. I'm Art Kaplan at the Division of Medical Ethics at the NYU Langone Health Center. Thanks for watching.